What's something a teacher did that made you absolutely hate them? Keyboarding/typing class. Got mad and refused us access to the computers for the rest of the semester. All but 2 or 3 of us straight up quit going or checking in. Since it was my last class I just left and went to work early. Last week or 2 before the end of the semester we all got called into the office separately and questioned about it. She was let go. Apparently she was supposed to actually keep track of whether or not we were there. You know, like a teacher. She was let go. My 2nd grade teacher would always get mad at me for little things. Like ripping the paper a little bit. I did stuff other kids did and I got punished. So I was suspended ALET. I was drawing in my notebook. I had finished all my classwork. Teacher was not lecturing. Teacher gets in a huff. I finished my work early. Grabs my notebook and says loudly to the class, "Oh how I love asterisk asterisk asterisk. He is such a nice and dreamy teacher. This is why I love biology class." Put my notebook on my desk and walked away with a grin. I was mortified. I've suffered from mental illness the majority of my life, and it was heavily affecting my life at school. I was super behind at math and couldn't understand anything. My mom hired a tutor, and within 3 months I had caught up to where we were at school. I had my notebook from my sessions with my tutor on the desk to look back if I couldn't remember something, not for a test or anything. My math teacher stopped in the middle of explaining something when she saw me check my notebook, grabbed it from my desk, looked into it, and then slammed it down in front of me. She got all up in my face and said you should never bring another teacher's notes to my class, like I did something really bad. Ended up stopping with tutoring and dozing off during her classes. Lost all motivation to keep up after that and hated her. A sociology professor I had was very biased. I think that's the right word to use. If you didn't agree with her views you were guaranteed a worse grade. I usually have nothing against teachers and I know they are just trying to help, but there was this one teacher in 4th grade. I was one of the top students when it came to language arts, but I seriously struggled with math. So I asked for help one time and she screamed at me and made me feel so stupid. I was so humiliated that I started crying because I've never had a teacher be disappointed in me. Before I was usually a good student. She yelled and said, "Whatever, go in the bathroom and cry like a little 3rd grader." Then she started telling the class, "Don't ever cry in my classroom like risk read it. It's so childish and I won't deal with it." Keep in mind I was 10 years old. She talked shit about a 10-year-old to a class of other 10-year-olds. And one time she told me during state testing, I wouldn't be surprised if you fail the math portion, because she knew I was insecure about that. I hated her so much that I studied extra hard in math, so she had no choice but to give me an A. She practically told us we were stupid because no one could ever understand how to solve her math problems. She overgives homework and class walk, gave us a 4-page bell ringer 20 questions each page. FYI when I mean literally no one understood. I asked other students in other periods and they didn't get it either. When we tried to get help from her she'd refuse to help us. Then when we tried to get help from others she'd say no talking. I asked to visit my therapist and she refused to let me go. When I threatened to leave the class anyway she said she'd give me a detention. Reported her. The teacher supervisor told me I was over exaggerating and I took everything too seriously. Edit 1. She wasn't a full-time teacher anyway, had a reputation of being allegedly racist, and was technically a sub, until they hired another guy, who was a great teacher by the way. I had a Latin teacher once. For the sake of this story, I'll just call her Mrs. S. I wasn't a terrible kid, just a little disruptive, so I can understand some of the punishments I got. However, this one time crossed the line. We had a test. I got up to sharpen my pencil and my shirt snagged on the desk. I reached down to get it off and cut myself on a sharp edge of the desk. I asked for a band-aid and she said, "I don't have one. Sit down and finish your test." Me, "Can I go to the office for one?" Mrs. S, "Sit down." So I did and handed it in. She sent me to the dean of students the next day. My school's code when it came to blood was pretty strict due to blood-borne diseases. So I can understand the severity of the situation. But when she actively denies me help and gets me in trouble for bleeding on the test. My app chemical teacher failed me for not turning in my final. I got into a car accident the night it was due and was hospitalized for a week. High school is great BTW. My music teacher from middle school was always condescending and arrogant to us. She acted like we are some idiots who should be feel blessed she's even talking to us. One of my professors in college was like that as well. Said often make jokes that were much more like provocations and insulting. Publicly embarrassed me and mocked me for being too lazy to study for my exam when in reality my mom was in surgery the night before it. I wouldn't say hate, but here's one I strongly disliked. We had a high school science teacher who played solitaire on her computer every single day. She never taught anything. When I got to college, I was so underprepared I cried almost every day. It was awful. Years later, she friended me on FB. I didn't think much about it because it's a small town and I'm friends with a lot of my old teachers. She never liked anything or interacted with me at all until the day I posted something about dropping out of law school. That post she liked. It was almost as if she purposely wanted me to fail. 6th grade. Ripped up a paper I wrote in front of the entire class and called me a hemorrhoid. I had my economics teacher mock me to another teacher in front of the whole class during high school. He was talking to my English teacher when we were having some quiet study time, and then for some reason the topic moved on to me. My econ teacher decided to joke that I'd be homeless after high school, to which the English teacher responded that I'd be driving a golf cart with all my stuff in it. The econ teacher replied by saying a golf cart would be too nice for me and I'd be lucky to even get a shopping cart. All the while I'm just staring at both of them, hearing snickers from the rest of my class. Fuck that guy. He was a shit teacher that spent most of his time flirting with teen girls anyway. I had a teacher in high school and somehow we got onto the topic of ringworm and she goes on about how yeah, that's a bad parasite to get. I was a quiet kid and very rarely spoke up, but this was one of those times. Actually, ringworm is a fungus, kind of like athlete's foot. She responds with, oh no, it's a parasite. My brother used to wrestle and he got it a lot. I didn't like that response since I currently wrestled and had it before, along with maybe 30% of the team at one point or another. I've had it before. The medication is the same as for athlete's foot. The conversation/debate ended with oh, well agree to disagree then. And then we got back on topic. After class she held me, after for a minute, to tell me not to talk back to her again. I figured it was best not to speak up much anymore for the rest of the year. Back in grade 6, maybe early 60s, you will be nothing but a ditch digger, a huge insult at the time. Then and there I swore I would become a TACHER equals I did. I was being bullied by 3 kids in my honors algebra 2nd class in 10th grade and was already going through a tough time with family and school. I did my homework for once, put it in the turn-in tray, and one of the bullies was behind me. He pulled it out and then ripped it up and got in my face. The teacher was right there and looked at me and shrugged, saying if I can't grade it, it's late. I don't accept late work. Screw you Mrs. S. I cut a bruise off the banana I was eating at lunch and threw it in the bushes. This teacher saw it and was so upset. He was like, would you do that at home? I said yes, I throw food scraps in the garden. He made me search for it to put it in the bin out of principle I guess. I told him I'm not going to find a dollar coin sized piece of banana in the bushes. I just didn't do it and said I did. It seemed more important to him than me actually doing it. Ridiculous. My middle school math teacher. Now, she didn't like me for whatever reason and had a pack of cheerleaders close to her. Well, she was the cheerleading coach. Well, I had to go out of state for my grandpa's funeral and I was really close to him. However, when I got back, I was at my locker and there she was with 3 of her favorite students. Of course, she asks me why I was gone for a couple of days. I didn't answer because I didn't feel like crying. Then one says, she probably left to get away from you. And she agrees. That was it. I whipped around, pissed as hell with tears running down my cheeks, and screamed. I had to go to my grandpa's funeral. They fell silent as I slammed my locker and ran away in the other direction still crying. Luckily, it was toward the end of the year and I didn't see that bitch again.